Hey there. Today, we're going to talk about a feeling. A feeling I think we've all known at some point, even if we can't quite put a name to it. It's that heavy weight that comes from really small moments, these tiny, subtle cuts that can end up hurting way more than you'd think. So let's dive in.
Just think about your day-to-day life, right? It's just a constant flow of little interactions. Most of them are totally fine. They just kind of wash over us. But then there are some that, well, they land differently, don't they? They feel heavy. They leave a small but very real mark.
And that's really the heart of what we're exploring here, this idea of small cuts. It's the perfect metaphor, really, for those moments that seem so minor on the surface, but when they happen again and again and again, they start to add up to something much, much bigger.
And here's the thing. These aren't just random, isolated incidents. They accumulate. And over time, they have this incredible power to shape our entire sense of belonging. They're what make us feel like we're either truly seen and welcomed, or they make us question if we fit in at all.
So it turns out these small cuts actually have a name. And sometimes just being able to name a thing can be incredibly powerful. So let's get a little more specific and actually define what we're talking about.
The term is microaggression. Now, there are two words in this definition that are absolutely crucial: subtle and often unintentional. See, we're not talking about obvious, in-your-face insults here. We're talking about those quiet, under-the-radar messages that just send a little signal that says, you're different, or you don't quite belong here.
Okay, so having a definition is one thing, right? But the idea really clicks when you see it in action. So what does a microaggression actually look like or sound like out in the real world?
So let's take a classic textbook example. On the surface, the action is an employee following a shopper. The employee might even think they're just being helpful, but the quiet message that gets received is something else entirely. It's, you look suspicious, I don't trust you. And that right there is the painful disconnect between intent and impact. Or how about this one? Someone meets, say, a female surgeon or a black CEO and just automatically assumes they're the nurse or the assistant. The quiet message there cuts deep. It says, people who look like you aren't supposed to be in charge. It completely undermines their expertise and all their hard work.
And you have to understand, dealing with this stuff over and over again, it takes a very real toll. It is emotionally exhausting. It makes you start to doubt yourself. And it creates this low-level, chronic stress that, as we all know, can have some pretty serious effects on our overall health.
Okay, so that's the heavy part. But here's the good news. We are not powerless. So how can we respond in a way that protects our own spirit, our own well-being? This next part is all about 5 really compassionate, powerful tools, not for picking a fight, but for taking care of yourself.
You can think of these 5 steps as a kind of roadmap. It's a guide for helping you process what just happened, and most importantly, for honoring your own dignity when a message has tried to chip away at it.
All right, first up, this sounds so simple, but it is absolutely foundational. It's just about giving yourself permission to feel what you're feeling. No judgment. Simply acknowledging to yourself, you know what, that wasn't okay and that hurt. That simple act validates your reality. You don't have to pretend it was nothing.
Step 2 is all about taking back your own story. See, a microaggression sends a negative message about you, but it's not from you. This step is about consciously, intentionally rejecting that message. It's a quiet little affirmation inside your own head that separates their bias from your truth.
Now sometimes, and this is a big sometimes, only if you feel safe, you might choose to respond out loud. And what's great about this is that it shows the response doesn't have to be some big, dramatic confrontation. A simple, calm correction like, actually, I'm the doctor, is powerful. It's an act of quiet clarity. It just gently redraws a boundary that was crossed.
These kinds of experiences can make you feel so incredibly alone. The gut reaction might be to pull away and isolate yourself. But the real healing happens in connection. Reaching out to a trusted friend, just sharing what happened, that is the antidote to feeling pushed to the margins. It restores that sense of belonging.
And finally, we have self-compassion. This is basically about treating yourself with the same kindness you'd give to a friend if they told you this story. It's about looking at the situation and saying, of course that hurt. Anyone would feel hurt by that. I deserve a moment of care right now. It's about soothing that sting.
So when you start to put all these pieces together, you begin to see that responding to these small cuts, it isn't really about fixing other people. It's about lightening your own load. Because at the end of the day, the goal here is totally internal. It's about protecting your own peace of mind. It's about making a conscious choice to honor your dignity, no matter what quiet messages get sent your way. It's about reclaiming your space and your right to be there.
And that really brings us to this final beautiful idea from the writer Henri Nouwen. He reminds us that underneath all the wounds, underneath any label anyone ever tries to put on us, there is a much deeper truth about who we are. It's this core, inherent worth that can't be touched or diminished by a passing comment or a wrong assumption.
And so, that's the thought I'd like to leave you with. If we know this to be true, how can we make it a real daily practice? How can we not only remember our own worth when we feel a little cut, but also actively look for and affirm that same deep, profound worth in every single person we meet?